What's up, guys? Nate Jackson, Guerrilla Sports. Welcome to Dumb Jock. Can you smell that? It's game day! It's game day. It's game day. And on Thursday night, it's game day. Primetime, one of the Broncos' two primetime games this season. Broncos are 3-3, coming off a tough loss at home against the Chargers. And the New Orleans Saints are 2-4. After winning their first two games, they've dropped 4 straight. Their quarterback, Derek Carr, is hurt. They're going to be playing Spencer Rattler. They got absolutely destroyed last week, 51-27, by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Scored 27 in the first half, nothing in the second half. The Saints have their own issues. The Broncos have theirs, trying to get right on the road on a short week. Okay, and so they say that you should treat all games the same, right? This is just another game, yeah? But it's hard not to feel that this game is different. Now, when Sean Payton, head coach of the Broncos, saw a primetime game in New Orleans on the schedule, I imagine he had a different feeling in his heart from, say, the game after it, next week at home against the Carolina Panthers. Yes, New Orleans holds a special place in Sean Payton's heart, and for good reason. You guys remember, Payton spent 15 seasons, 15 as the head coach of the Saints. 15 seasons. Think of that. Think of how rare that is these days to find that kind of sustained success in the NFL. 15 seasons. 1 Super Bowl victory and a whole lot of beautiful memories. You know, sometimes football is just football, but sometimes it's bigger. The game becomes a salve for the wounds of life and brings people together, gives them something to cheer for, gives them hope, and allows them to forget, if only for a moment, the hardships they face out there in the real world. Nowhere has this idea been more personified than in New Orleans in 2006, Sean Payton's first year as Saints head coach. The previous year, in August of 2005, Hurricane Katrina ripped through New Orleans, causing 53 breaches of the city's levees, submerging 80% of the city underwater and causing an estimated $125 billion in damage. The Superdome, where the Saints played, was said to have been so badly damaged, it was going to be demolished. Now, this was after, during the previous year, 2005, Saints owner Tom Benson had halted lease negotiations during a stadium dispute and was said to be considered a relocation to San Antonio or somewhere in Texas, or maybe even LA, they said. Some then accused Benson of using Katrina, this was after Katrina happened and they had to relocate, to kickstart the move to Texas, after many questioned whether New Orleans was fit to have a team at all because of the weather situation and because the Superdome was destroyed. It seemed as if the momentum was pulling the Saints away from New Orleans, until NFL Commissioner Paul Tagliabue stepped in to ensure they didn't leave, working with local politicians and other owners, came up with a deal, got some money behind it, and then worked behind the scenes to make sure it happened, that the New Orleans Saints stayed in New Orleans. And soon there was a plan in place to return to the Superdome in 2006. Now this environment is what Sean Payton stepped into. He's a ball coach, man. He's going where they want him. And the Saints, ravaged by Katrina and a relocation controversy, went 3-13 in 2005 and needed a new coach. And in the following offseason, Payton was hired to be that coach and right the ship.
None of us could ever understand the impact relative to it was bigger than football, and that we weren't prepared for. I don't think any of us were. And then those, that first year, I don't know, in preseason, I don't know if we won a game. At one point I remember thinking, I don't know if we're going to win a game this year. And then, we won a close one at Cleveland to start the year. We still hadn't played at home. They were still fixing the Superdome. We went on the road and fell down to Green Bay, if my memory's right, 13 points. We came back and won that game. And then so right off the top, we had some close games and then beat Atlanta. That was the Monday night game. And so I've said this before, it wasn't our best team, but it was one of our tougher teams. And we ended up in the NFC Championship game in that first year.
NFC Championship game in the first year and the first home game back at the Superdome. I don't know if you guys remember it. Steve Gleason blocked a punt in the end zone, recovered by the Saints for a touchdown, signaling the first score in the Superdome in 21 months. The entire city went crazy. It seemed to breathe life back into that city and became its pride and joy.
We would fly home from regular season games. There'd be, 1,000 people at the airport. Just like none of us could have ever envisioned that. So there was a uniqueness to it. And I think a lot of it, they've always been passionate, but I think a lot of it had to do with the year prior and how difficult it was.
Hope. Football gives us hope. And in this case, it gave the city of New Orleans not just hope, but really good football. In Payton's first year, he earned Coach of the Year honors. His quarterback, Drew Brees, who had left San Diego after an injury and many thought he was done, was second in MVP voting to LaDainian Tomlinson. They made it to the NFC Championship game and thus began a 15-year run in which Payton won 152 games, averaging over 10 per season, winning a Super Bowl in 2009, and scoring more touchdowns during his 15 seasons there than any other NFL team during that time. His players broke records. Remember, Michael Thomas broke the receptions in a season record. Jimmy Graham broke receptions by a tight end record. Darren Sproles broke yards from scrimmage records, and Drew Brees was putting up crazy numbers every year. Not only the good stuff, there was some bad stuff too from Sean Payton. Embroiled in scandals and controversies and had to sit out a entire season after being disciplined by Roger Goodell in the NFL for Sean Payton's role in the Bountygate scandal. You guys remember Bountygate? They were paying players to injure players from the opposing team. There was a bounty set up on specific players from the opposing team. That became public. And by the way, it probably happens on other teams. It's probably still happening today, guys. But the New Orleans Saints found themselves in the crosshairs of the league. Some tapes were made public, and Sean Payton became one of the fall guys. And to this day, I don't think there's a lot of love lost between Roger Goodell and Sean Payton. So much happened for Sean Payton in New Orleans, so many beautiful memories, and so much left undone. So when Bo tells you this,
it's just, another game to us.
We applaud the youngster for his professionalism, but rest assured, this is anything but just another game. I'm Nate Jackson, Dumb Jock.